Yeah, everyone, welcome back to the Linking into Sales Social Selling podcast. Today, I'm flying solo, interviewing Gil Pagan of Lease Sales Rep. Unfortunately, Martin is going to be is very busy today, as he usually is out there across the state of North Carolina, doing training with a whole bunch of folks in community colleges and chamber of commerces and other business organizations across the state, helping them understand a little bit more about social media. So today, like I said, I have a special guest, Gil Pagan of Lease a Sales Rep. How's it going today, Gil?
It's going great. Greg, thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm here sitting and talking with you, so I couldn't have a better day.
Well, likewise, I appreciate it. I'm in the presence of greatness.
Well, I appreciate that. And now, so let's talk a little bit about what you do, and maybe actually, why don't we start just a little bit? I'll give the audience just a little bit of a background on how you and I came to kind of know each other. We met, I'm sure, through some of the events at Linking the Triangle, a local group here in the area, and you had mentioned that you have a sales on demand organization, an Inc. 5000 listed company that actually helps organizations with appointment setting and lead generation and things like that. I've been always fascinated with these kind of businesses and understand that there is a significant need out there in the market for sales organizations that they want to test out whether or not building their organization out with salespeople is valuable, but also the fact that having a business like this in the Triangle area is also very interesting. So how did you get started with Lease a Sales Rep?
Well, Lease a Sales Rep started accidentally. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I started the company in 2003 when I left corporate America. I came out of staffing. And Lease a Sales Rep at its core is really a sales staffing business. Although we are different from typical staffing businesses, there are a lot of similarities. So I was working for corporate for about 20 years. The company that I was working for got sold to private investors, and they did an ESOP, basically. They did a stock option plan for employees, and they put in their own management team. And so basically myself and the managers hit a proverbial glass ceiling, so they put some people above us. So I decided to move on because the CEO wasn't going anywhere and I wasn't getting his spot. So I decided to start my company. And at that time, I had a couple of kids in private school and had big mortgage payments and big car payments and all those kind of things. And rolled the dice, put everything on the line, and started Lease a Sales Rep with credit card debt and a home equity line in the basement of my house in Staten Island, New York. And that's how I started the company. Basically, I was Lease a Sales Rep. I was the first Lease a Sales Rep. So I basically started the company in going after healthcare contracts, and because I came out of healthcare staffing before I started the company, that's where my relationships were. I basically became a hired gun for healthcare staffing companies to go out and get them contracts with hospitals and nursing homes and the like. And then I migrated and expanded Lease a Sales Rep to the point where now we're doing a lot of services, about 7 verticals that we operate in. And I made my first hire in 2004, moved out from the basement of my house in Staten Island, where it was only Gil, to a very small 150 square foot office in Manhattan. I had 2 desks, one against the wall, and the other one had a sales rep in it. So I was 2 sales reps, boiler room set up, and we were banging out phone calls, generating leads, getting appointments for our clients, closing business over the phone. I was like, sure, I could do this all day. This is easy. And the rest is history.
Very nice, very nice. Well, and you've had great success ever since. You've been listed on the Inc. 5000 for the last few years, and so you also have like a couple offices as well. And I noticed that you still have one up in New York, and you have one in Miami and Raleigh, Greensboro. Where else you got an office?
That's basically the we have a 4 office footprint right now, and Raleigh is where I sit most of the time when I'm not flying out to branch locations in New York and in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we also have an office in Greensboro, which, as you know, is about an hour and a half from Raleigh. So we have nationwide sales teams on the ground, typically in very, very large markets like California, Texas. Think of Chicago, D.C., Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia. Think of densely populated urban areas with a lot of people. We are not in Iowa. We're not in South Dakota. We're not in those kind of places where there's not a lot of density. So we tend to be in very large markets across the U.S.
Okay. Very cool. So you and I had we got together for lunch a couple weeks ago and discussed having you come on to the podcast and share your experience with sales. And I mentioned that we really don't on the Linking into Sales podcast, we really don't teach people how to sell per se, but we definitely want to show them the tools and get them a little more familiar with using these tools to help them do what they do know how to do, which is sell. But we understand I think through our conversation that maybe bringing in somebody who does know how to sell, like yourself, might actually be bring good value to our listeners here on the show. So again, thank you for coming on for this. So let's talk about, I guess, some of the challenges that businesses face with sales. I guess right at the beginning, I guess we can talk about generating leads and setting appointments. I mean, that's the crux of your business, right?
Yeah, we're actually an end-to-end solution. We can generate the lead, qualified lead. That means someone who's interested in talking to you about your product or service. We can also generate an appointment where you would get in front of that person, or your sales rep would get in front of that person, that prospect, so that you could pitch your service or the product. Or we can actually close the sale over the phone or face-to-face across the U.S. So we're an end-to-end solution. A good portion of our business, I'd say probably about maybe 40% of our business, is inside sales, where we're generating leads, getting appointments, closing business for clients, getting credit card information, invoicing information, getting contracts signed, across email and fax, and basically operating an inside sales organization for our clients. They outsource their sales to us. Many of the challenges that we see in the marketplace, particularly around leads and appointments, is in the small business side. A lot of the small businesses, they are great at selling their product. They're great in front of a customer. If they are able to share their service offering with somebody, they're very passionate about doing that. They're pretty good at it. Challenge for them is getting in front of the right people so they could pitch. And many of them don't have the sales skills. They don't know how to generate that lead and get the meeting, ask for the business. They feel uncomfortable doing it. They don't have a system in place to generate leads and to move people down a sales funnel. We see a lot of that in the small business environment. And we can, when we get to the larger markets as well, we see similar issues. Believe it or not, you would think that large organizations have a defined sales process, and we work with a lot of large clients, and they too have problems getting leads and getting appointments. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, it's the the core to every business, and I guess filling the pipeline and making sure that opportunities are still coming in, and sometimes some organizations are able to create that pipeline, keep it filled, but sometimes they need some extra help, right?
You're absolutely right. The challenges for the SMB market versus the larger companies is that on the larger scale, they may have leads coming in from partners, channel relationships. They may have leads coming in from trade shows, and because they have an internet presence, they're getting internet leads. So they may have some more leads coming in than your typical small business that's starting out or been in business for a couple of years only. But even then, the larger enterprises don't have a defined sales process to get them into a pipeline, hit them 5, 6, 7, 20, 30 times, be consistent in their approach to close business. And the small businesses just have challenges getting leads in general, getting appointments and getting in front of customers. So what small businesses face is not uncommon to large businesses. It's just that it's a different issue. Same issue, getting following through on leads and appointments, but they're different kind of problems. Has been at least been our experience from what I've seen.
Okay. All right. So I guess there's a bunch of mistakes that might be happening as well around, I guess not having the right human touch, or maybe no touch at all. I take it that you probably have a few clients that are that have come to you as well, and they're relying on marketing automation to generate the business for them, or maybe other automation tools and things like that. But it's not really pulling business through through the pipeline like they thought it would. You facing clients like that as well?
Yeah, you hear the term digital marketing, right? You hear the term social marketing, right? Because this is an area that you talk a lot about on social media marketing and the like. And a lot of people are and this is again small and to large and middle-sized mid-market companies are beginning to rely solely on a non-human touch approach, meaning pull marketing, inbound content marketing. Get people to fill out a form and contact you, and then you're trying to interact with them via email, it's more of a you don't call the customer until you absolutely have to, or the prospect. And a lot of businesses, small and large, are what I call taking the lazy approach, meaning they're just waiting for the customer to self-sell themselves, to pick up the phone to call you, instead of you, when you generate that lead, pick up the phone and call them. So it's a non-human touch approach is what I call it, and a lot of companies are doing that, and they're missing a lot of opportunities by doing that. Once you generated that lead through content marketing, social media marketing, they come into your organization. The first thing we need to do is pick up the phone and call them. I mean, almost immediately, if you can, and start interacting with that prospect. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with doing that. They've gotten so again, lack of a better word, Greg, lazy, because they want the customer to call them. So if they were to pick up the phone, maybe out of 10 leads they get, they pick up the phone half the time, they probably close, half of the business. But they just don't do it. And again, why they don't do it, it's a whole other conversation. But I guess they qualified the lead, maybe they haven't. But most of the time, I believe it's just they don't want to call them.
Well, it could be, and I agree. I mean, we understanding at least on my end from a marketing perspective, putting these automation tools in place are supposed to be designed to surface up the most qualified leads to make a phone call to, because too many times sales folks have actually said to marketing, your leads suck, quit sending them over to us, and so right. I mean, you've heard that before, right? So
yes, I have.
Right. And so putting these kind of systems in place appears to help, but there's still a lot of sales organizations out there that are still doing cold calling. They may actually be generating leads through social selling methods as well, which would just be pure social media play and not picking up the phone and trying to use LinkedIn and things like that to generate prospects. Which actually brings us up to the next point here. Are you guys using? Are you having your sales folks actually use LinkedIn to prospect and identify the prospects? And if you do, give us an idea of kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, using LinkedIn is one of our strategies, and we are firm believers in operating on a multi-lane highway. So depending upon what city you're from and what you're listening to, where you're listening to this podcast from, in certain cities you have highways with 5 or 6 lanes. And we're a firm believer that you should be operating on all 5, 6, 7, 8 lanes. And social media, LinkedIn is one among a whole bunch of others. And we use LinkedIn to reach prospects that are targeted for our customers by using InMail is one thing that we do. We send InMails directly to decision makers around our own services at times, but also around our client services. So we'll identify those decision makers by title, by geography, by company size, through a LinkedIn premium account, which we're big believers in. You should have a premium account if you're a salesperson, or if you're doing any kind of prospecting that involves B2B, and this conversation is really around B2B, you should be using LinkedIn. So we're sending in-mails, we're downloading data from LinkedIn based on our search queries. We also have advanced searches. I'm sure you're familiar with that, Greg. Mm-hmm. Where let's as an example, we want IT CIOs of 100 to 500 employee companies across the U.S. And every time we put that search query in, and that search query is saved, every week we'll get a list of people that signed on to LinkedIn that meet that criteria. And then what happens? We hit them with an in-mail and then try to make a connection with them. So we're using in-mail for that. And it works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's part of a multi-lane highway.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you guys using the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or just having your folks use the sales premium account?
Premium account, sales premium account. Okay. What's good about these saved searches and these advanced searches is that you get these numbers every week. So you can download them, and there's a tool. I don't know if you've heard of this, Greg. It's called Sales Loft.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. SALESLOFT, and it's a paid service, but it has an add-on through Chrome to actually, you could sort all your prospects that you want to identify on LinkedIn and hit them on Sales Loft, and it'll pull whatever email, phone numbers they have on file, and there you got a prospect list. But that, the service is, it's I think it's like $1,500 a year or something like that, and it's an investment. If you're particularly a business owner or a company or a sales rep, you'll get ahead in front of more prospects that way.
Yeah, SalesLoft is a pretty incredible tool, and I think we've in a previous episode we probably were talking about a bunch of sales tools that organizations should be using. SalesLoft and Chrome both came up, so it's good to to hear that confirmation that you guys are using that, especially in a sales organization like yours.
Yeah, it's definitely a good product that they have. So we are using LinkedIn to prospect, the in-mail feature, the sorting of list, prospects, that kind of thing. So we are using that.
Okay. Now, when you're sending out email, you said you're having some success, and sometimes you're not. So what do you think? Have you identified what helps you become successful with sending an email?
Yeah, first of all, you got to be extremely targeted to the person that you're talking to. So let's say it's a director of sales of an organization. You want to sell them some software. The inbox, or the in-mail is very direct. And I'll tell you exactly what it says. It says, dear Greg, this is a sales-related email. That's the first line that's in the email, believe it or not. They put it right out there, and that's exactly what we say. We're being direct, upfront, that we're looking to potentially present a product or service to you, and let me tell you why we believe that this is relevant. And we give them 3 points, very short. People like things in threes for some oddball reason, and give them 3 points of this software is a great software that makes you more efficient. This software can get you more leads and prospects, and this software is being used by people in your industry. And we can talk to you about that when we chat. We will call you within a day or so to discuss this. So it's a very targeted email with a link to the website. It's very direct in the sense that it is a sales-focused email. And then when we say we call, we actually call. Okay, there are people who say they call nada, bupkis, nothing. They don't pick up the phone and call. So that particular email works because it's short, direct, and it's related to their industry. It talks about other players who are potentially using that service or product, and they want to talk to you. And also we put in that it's only going to be a 10-15 minute discussion, and we'll qualify them relatively quickly, and then we'll hang up the phone if they don't meet the criteria.
Mm. All right, cool.
That
You
works.
mentioned, yeah, no, it sounds like follow through is pretty key, as well as being pretty straightforward. But
Yeah.
you're from New York, so I guess you wouldn't have it any other way, right? Being just
Yeah.
straight up.
It works for us. It works for us, and like I think I told you this offline at times. That sometimes some people like it and some people don't. But the ones who are really in business and the ones that came, ones who are growing companies and they're at the high levels, they appreciate it. I said, listen, we don't want to waste your time. Okay, it's going to be very direct, and then we move on. Okay, that's why we're good at what we do. In the sales game.
Hmm. Now, let's say you're following through, and unfortunately can't get the guy to pick up the phone, or they're busy or something along the lines. What do you are you just hanging up the phone and trying to call back, or are you leaving voicemails, or what's the story there? What do you say?
Yeah, yeah, oh, absolutely. When we reach out to them, we follow through first of all with multiple touches. Obviously, the LinkedIn in-mail request is one process of a couple. The second way is obviously to leave voicemail, and obviously, if you don't get them, you don't get them. You're going to have to try to email them again and leave them a voicemail again. And typically, what we do here is we're saying that we're following up on the email through InMail, for example, that we sent out, and we're also sharing the value proposition, the 2 or 3 points that were in the actual email that we sent in through LinkedIn to get them to call us back. What happens sometimes, though, is that they will never get back to you. And we've heard this before. People leave 50 voicemails and nobody ever gets back to me. It's because your voicemail says the same thing over and over. It just says that, hi, I'm so-and-so calling from so-and-so company and just trying to get a hold of you, and there's no call to action. And when you send out the email and you call the person multiple times, they don't respond to you. What we typically say, and this is another tip, is this is our third voicemail. We'd appreciate that you tell us to go away. Please tell us to go away. Tell us you're not interested. Tell us that we're being a pest.
Mm.
Email us back and just tell us that we need to move on. And believe it or not, when we do that, we get typically a response rate of about 50 to 60%.
Nice.
They'll respond to us and say, and they'll apologize sometimes. I'm sorry for not getting back to you. I've been so busy, and all these kind of things. And they'll either tell us they're not interested, or they'll set up a call. So you need to be prepared to close down the conversation or close out the prospect, and tell them that that please tell me to go away, and do that. So that's another tip that we use, and it actually works. But a lot of people don't want to do that. They want to leave the typical voicemail.
Yeah.
Get back to me. They just because they're uncomfortable. They don't want to do it.
It's kind of funny. I've heard that before. Sometimes you can leave a pretty interesting email response in order to get somebody to kind of respond. And I heard one about sales rep friend of mine. He sent an email that basically told the guy. He said, "Look, listen, I'm really afraid. I'm afraid that your fingers got stuck underneath the filing cabinet and you aren't able to type and reply back to me. So just let me know, and just pick up the phone or do something and let me know if I need a call for help."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy. I've heard of that, and we do something very similar in nature. The first thing, obviously, the first tip is to send an in-mail request. Second tip is to leave the voicemails, right, to get them to respond to you,
mm-hmm.
and leave a tell me to go away kind of voicemail and that kind of thing. And the third thing that we typically recommend is that every time you leave a voicemail, you send out an email immediately thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be very consistent about this. And the problem with a lot of people in trying to get sales and appointments and leads and that kind of thing, they're not consistent. They don't have a process. The minute you hang up the phone, you send them an email about the voicemail message you left, and this is what you should put in the subject line. Voicemail number 1, email number 1. Voicemail number 2, email number 2. Voicemail number 3, email number 3. And put your phone number in the subject line in every single email. Because what's going to happen, what happens here, Greg, it's a psychological progression. They're seeing this thing, and you're calling them, and they see the email. And typically within the second or third email, they respond. And they'll either say, I'm not interested, or I apologize, I've got your messages, or set something up. And that's a valuable tip. That if you do that and you're consistent, the problem with people is consistency. They don't do it all the time.
Right.
You're gonna increase the number of appointments. You're gonna increase the qualified leads. It's gonna happen, but you just have to do that. And the example you raised about the types of emails that get people to respond to you, the one about I think your fingers are underneath the file cabinet. That'll be for another podcast of how we get people to respond after you've had a conversation.
Yeah.
You already talked to them. And then how do you move them out of into the sales funnel, move them down the pipeline? But if you do something like this, the follow-up through the email, the multiple emails, the leaving the voicemails that tell you go away, and also you be very direct in your in-mail request, you'll be able to get more leads, more appointments, sales. Because trust me, the vast majority of people are not doing this. They're not doing it because they don't know that they got to do it. Secondly, they're not consistent about doing it. So right. It's just, I don't know if you know what your thoughts are on that, Greg, but that's just our thoughts.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've heard a number of times that you got to make multiple touches in order to get a response, and then there's a lot of salespeople out there that'll just give up after the second or third try. When it's it takes 8 or 9 or 10 tries in order to really get a response out of it. But I guess the prospect on the other end is saying, well, eventually they'll go away because they'll give up, but if they don't give up, I actually have to pick up the phone and talk to them. So persistence, I agree, does pay tremendously. We look at. I talked to a few folks who are sending emails, for example, and how do you get a response out of somebody who is just not opening or not reading emails? Especially when they're sent, through a marketing automation system or something like that. Sometimes you just got to shake up the norm and quit sending status quo messages and just really just wake them up. Give them a little earthquake just to get them to kind of respond. But I think your approach of saying, hey, this is it. We're gonna give us a response or something like that. We really need to know if we're bugging you or if you're really interested. I think that's a great approach.
Yeah, and some people will respond and some people won't. But remember that if 50% of the people respond to that approach, that's 50% more than what you would have got if you didn't do it. So
right.
I think that it's really about people's comfort level. We do this every day. We sell every day. We generate leads every day. We generate appointments every day. We close business every day, and we're always figuring out what works. And these types of strategies typically work in increasing the number of leads, appointments, and sales you get. And you can use the social media tools. You can use the email marketing. You can do all that kind of stuff, which is great. Multiple lane highways, right, Greg? Multiple lane highways. Your email, social media, phone calls. We didn't go into direct mail, all that kind of stuff. But there's multiple lane highways that you hit these people. And trust me, your competitors, and I feel confident in saying this, your competitors are not typically doing this. They're not. It's if you're doing it, you're going to get more business.
Exactly. So, well, I think let's wrap this up here, and I know I want to have you back on for us to discuss, follow-ups and what to do with the appointments and trying to move them over to close, because we have some more of that sales process to kind of talk about. Definitely love to have you come back on for another episode. But thank you for joining me for this particular one. I think if anybody has comments or suggestions or anything like that or feedback, Gil, how do they reach out to you?
They could reach us through our website, leaseasalesrep.com, or they can call the corporate office in Raleigh at 919-827-0019. Again, that's 919-827-0019, or go to leaseasalesrep.com and contact us that way as well. We'd be more than happy to chat about your business and how we could potentially help you.
All right, and you're also on Twitter, correct?
I'm on Twitter. Lisa Sales Rep is on Twitter. Lisa Sales Rep is on Facebook. Lisa Sales Rep is on LinkedIn.
Good.
We're on all the social media platforms, kind of like what you recommend, Greg. So we're on the right platforms.
Yep.
So you can always contact us any which way, that way, whatever you feel comfortable. But feel free to do that, and we'll be more than happy to chat with you and see how we can help you.
All right, very good. Well, again, thank you very much for joining me for this episode, and everyone else, don't forget you can leave comments, if you want, on the blog at linkingintosales.com. This is episode number 49. You can also leave us a 5-star review on iTunes to help other sales professionals like yourself find and discover this particular podcast and learn a little bit more about social selling and discover some of the folks that we're talking to. And don't forget, follow us on Twitter at linking2 to sales, and Facebook, LinkedIn group. Come in to join the LinkedIn group. Start asking some good questions and connecting with some other very fine folks in sales. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you all next week. And you've been watching Linking into Sales, using social media to support the sales cycle.